With that said, I'd like to go ahead and get this meeting started for the sake of time. We're running behind. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and, we're gonna start this meeting. Today is, make sure I'm recording here. And we are. So we're gonna go ahead and begin this meeting for February 20th, 2023 at 7 o'clock. Official time is 7:25. Like to go around and ask everybody to introduce themselves. We're gonna ask you for your dock and slip number and just something real quick with your name. So we're gonna start here with the gentleman in the green shirt. Actually, I'm gonna start with the gentleman in the blue shirt here, Ray Hill. And we're gonna go around the table, and then Jimmy's the secretary. He's gonna determine whether or not we have a quorum. So Ray, I'll let you go ahead and start.
All right, Ray Hill, I'm on dock 12, slip 9. What else do you wanna know?
That's pretty much it.
Hello, Ray.
This is my boat bay.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
She loves to sail.
Okay, can we get her name?
Pat.
Pat, okay. Sir?
Graham Hawley, dock 16, slip 3.
Thank you very much. Sir?
Aaron Whitmarsh, 1856.
Okay, next person.
Jonathan Tulos, boat slip 5, dock 12. I got that powerboat, makes a lot of noise.
Sounds good.
It doesn't have a quiet exhaust.
It's got a good sounding engine though.
Dennis Pelletier, I've got about half a dozen slips, some rented and one I used.
There you go.
He's also a past president.
Yeah.
Javier Schmidt, dock 18, slips 19 and 20.
Okay, and that's 18A, I believe.
I think it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's 18A.
18A, okay.
Yeah, we have 18A and 18B, so you're on 18A.
Okay.
Okay.
Tony O'Gara docks the 20, slip 11 and 12.
And then I'm Kent Brownhill, and I'm in slip 18, I forget, 17, 20, something like that.
So if you're over here, you're gonna be 17. You over here on the non-liveaboard?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I'm on-
you're
I'm
probably
on-
17.
I'm on dock, it says, I think it's 18, but I don't remember which slip I.
Ah, okay.
Boardwalk.
Yeah.
On the boardwalk.
He just doesn't remember exactly the slip number.
Yeah, yeah.
What dock it is, because we live right there.
Okay.
We can actually probably look it up through his name.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another point, part of the rules and regulations thing is that we keep accurate records. We're gonna be discussing that tonight of all the members and their email addresses and contact information. So for those that you have passed along to me that I've spoken with on the phone or contacted us through Facebook and other means, we really appreciate that. It's pretty much a requirement for us, so that's appreciated. So with that being said, Jimmy, does it look like we've got a quorum here for officers at least? I know we've got Eric here. We've got Nazar on the phone. We've also got Dave Martin, and then we have a recently hired board member here. John, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure, I'm John Oliar. I think I may know some of you. I've been around here for about 15 years. At one point I owned about a half a dozen slips, but I'm down to one over on the end of 16, 17, and on the left. Honestly can't recall, I think it's 20, 21. Can't recall the slip number exactly. But yeah, they just recently on the board, and hoping I can make a small contribution. I've been here for so long, I felt like I needed to contribute a little bit.
Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Okay, so Secretary Jimmy Schlomack's here, and he's going to be doing the secretary duties here. So item number 3, member of attendance, brief description is now complete. We're going to move on to the next agenda item, nominating and governance committee section. Number 1, approve the minutes from the previous month's board meeting. I'm going to let Jimmy go ahead and he sent those out here recently. I know I sent a copy of last month's minutes out for everybody to review about 4 days ago. So is there anybody that objects to the minutes that were sent out?
Yeah, I tried to contact Jimmy. I had some minor items on them that need to be updated.
On the minutes for
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
And what are those items?
Let's see. Okay, I'm not sure which one's which.
Does anybody have a copy of that? Cause I did not bring a
Yeah,
copy.
are we talking about the special meeting minutes or the?
January,
January minutes now, yes.
There was, I see, I can't find the provision, but there was one provision on the minutes, I believe, that said that I said go after our savings to pay for the water lines, and that was something I never did say, but that had my name attached to it.
do we have a copy of those minutes?
Yeah, I'm looking at them.
Let's see.
But I don't have Wi-Fi on my computer.
I can connect you, Jim.
Can you do that?
Might have a hard copy.
Okay, I
Which,
can't
I'm
remember.
sorry, which number was that on his agenda, or on his list here?
I can't remember which one it was. I have to take a look at it. Let me just take a look and see. All right.
Here, is that one phone?
Man, that one is howling up there.
Springston made a motion to, okay, wait, not to use our reserve account.
Jim,
Okay, that's what I'd done. Okay. Yeah, I made a motion not to use our reserve account, to use the checking account for those transactions.
For the emergency?
Motion passed. Okay.
So you're okay with it then?
Yeah, I must have read it wrong. I thought it said I made a motion to use our reserve account.
Okay.
Okay.
You good with it then?
Yeah, that was my mistake. I thought I read it wrong.
All right.
Okay, from what I understand then, that motion passes to approve the January minutes. Were there special meetings there, Jimmy?
Say it again?
Was there a special meeting after the January minutes that need to be approved?
There was 2 special meetings
Okay.
after that.
Do we have copies of those?
I did not bring copies of those.
You have Wi-Fi now though?
Yes, I do.
The January minutes passed.
February the 6th. Okay, January minutes approved. Is everybody?
Everybody
unanimous?
approved. That's
Okay,
unanimous?
approved. Man, listen to that one now.
Yeah.
All right, so you got it open right that there.
One of the reasons I need to buy a printer.
Basically, what I have is pretty simple. I just, I didn't go into any great discussions or whatever case may be, but we had a quorum of voting members was present. Kurt Letourneau introduced John Oliar and nominated him for position on the board. Kurt Letourneau proposed using Cheryl Bahag with Quadros Miguel Crosby to replace David Pace. Kurt Letourneau proposed using Nagashi and Carter PLLC to do our annual audit. So we kind of discussed it and hashed it over and talked about it. And then I think the next meeting, the following Monday, we voted on all of this.
I'd like to add something in whenever you get a chance.
You want to add to, what was
You
your
wanna
court?
Just to the minutes.
This is
Sure.
the special.
Okay. The board approved that in order for our president to contact the law firm, it has to be board approved prior.
We don't need to go
And
into
then-
great detail.
and then,
explain
secondly,
anything.
That all board members would be included outwards and inbound for email correspondence. Those are 2 very important additions, or 3 rather, that we did add to that conversation, to that meeting.
Sure.
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay, so if you can add that in, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we need to go into great detail on what we discussed. Okay, February the 13th. Okay, we had John Oliar attended by Zoom meeting. Darren Baird came in late, but we did have a quorum with Kurt, Eric, Jimmy, Nasser, and Dave were present for the meeting. Okay, topics for the night: unfinished business from previous board of directors meeting February the 6th. Kurt Laterro moved to elect John Olear to the board, seconded and passed without dissent. Kurt Laterro moved to appoint Sharub Bahag as legal representative, seconded and passed without dissent. Kurt moved to move forward with the annual audit provided by Dakesh and Carter PLC. A discussion about pricing and a motion by Dave to table the audit until after tax season, seconded and passed without dissent. Kurt made a motion to accept John Tulos' request for a boat lift for his slip 5 on dock 12. Motion seconded and passed without dissent. Kurt made a motion to accept a quote to rebuild Ray Hill's slip 9 on dock 12, with Ray agreeing to pay 1/2 of the cost.
Finger pier. Not the whole slip, just a finger pier. Sorry.
You gonna pay for dredging too?
No.
Are you dredging?
Help us out.
Is there dredging?
Okay, and then we had a phone conversation with our plumber on discussion on what he was doing with the fire lines and replacing the valves. We're gonna replace the main valves. The valve out here leaks and always leaks. We had trouble the last time it froze. We shut the valve off and it was leaking water by and froze and busted all the pipes anyway. The valve here on 13 shuts off and it works good. We don't have to do anything with that. 13's back up and running. The main shut-off valve on 17 doesn't shut off. They're gonna replace that. The main shut-off valve on 18B leaks really bad when it's shut off, and they're gonna replace that. So we're gonna replace some of the main valve for about $4,600, I think was the quote on that.
So the board listened to that conversation, everybody agreed. The gentleman is giving us a very good warranty, offered to come out and do the pre-freeze preparations for us for a fee. And the fee sounded reasonable. We can get those details. And that should be the end of that meeting minutes right there. So is everybody on board with passing those minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, the only thing is, like I said, I don't know which one meeting it was, but just have those provisions in there for the law firm, whichever one that
noted.
was.
It was noted. So.
So on my end, I just want to wait to see that.
Yeah, understand. So, anybody have any objections to those minutes? Okay, no objections from the board, so those pass. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item. President's report, accomplishments and objectives. Okay, I just want to announce that Dock 22 is 100% complete and running now. There was a couple of slips that somehow were not working, so we had a plumber by the name of Leas, works for the city of Clear Lake, and he finished up that job. Dock 16 and 17, we got approval. Everybody voted, like Jimmy was saying, after we talked to the plumber to get that repair work done. We had 3 quotes for that. He came in about the middle. So that work was approved, so that's an accomplishment there. Just to repeat, we've hired a law firm. The gentleman's name is Sharu. Rick Wall had recommended him from the previous law firm of Craig and Gray. So we went ahead and hired him, so that was accomplished. Main valves, that was discussed. We just discussed that. And then the other accomplishment was to bring John here, that he introduced himself onto the board. Basically, my goal lately has been to add as many board members to fill positions, and we're getting those filled. With that being said, I believe it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to bring John Tulos on, unless, John, you've got something.
Well, I just had a quick question on what you just previously reported. 16 and 17 is getting the domestic water lines replaced. Is that going to be with the PEX stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That was my only question.
Yeah, the plumber had a lot of great detail. I recorded these meetings, and we're going PEX going forward. All our repairs so far, we've gone to the PEX because, as you all know, every year we have to replace this PVC. It ruptures on us, and look how long. That phrase was in December, so here we are. So it's time to move forward and get us up to date and do it properly. So I think in the long run, we're gonna save a lot of money.
Great.
Okay, where else was I at here? So that's, yeah, so like I said, one of the goals is to get people back on the board. We've had a couple people we've lost, we've had some turnover, but I believe John Toulos had an interest in joining the board, so he's a previous vice president of the condos. He still owns a slip out here. John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I own a little air conditioning business here locally, been here about maybe 10, 12 years, and like I said, we bought the condo over here, we still own it here, and we have the boat slip here, and we've done a lot of work. We moved in here too, same thing, we had a lot of get repairs done, gate fixed, a bunch of access ways and stuff like that. Worked hand in hand with the president really good, we had a good relation. He's also Kirk's also spoke with Jesse, and verified, we had a good relation, we got a lot of stuff done and accomplished. Also helped with the land care out here, so we had a lawn company come out here doing it. Ended up finding another company, saved us about $15,000 a year. Did an even better job on the landscape, and also some other repairs we did, we saved several amount of money as well.
Great. John, you showed interest in joining the board?
Yeah, I like to be on the board.
Okay. I know I've spoken with you. I don't know if anybody has any questions for you.
Anybody got questions?
Jimmy, anybody on the board have any questions for John? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to bring him onto the board with his experience.
Second.
So, note there, Eric seconded that motion.
We don't need to make
Okay.
a note of who made a second, just the motion.
Okay?
I'm in favor. I'm in favor.
Dave Nazar?
Yes.
That's a yes for Nazar.
All right.
Dave, did you say something? Dave, you still there?
Yeah, I said yes.
Oh, okay, that was a yes for Dave too, so looks like it's unanimous.
Welcome, John.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
You like to
Congratulations.
call John or Jonathan?
John's fine. Yeah, John's fine. Just, what I usually like to do is give me a small little task, and I'll research it, and I'll do a bunch of things for you guys. And that's what I like to usually do. I don't like to get involved in all the aspects of everything. I like just to find some little niche, and I'll work on that and give you all the data, information, and all the different ways we can go about doing it.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Welcome aboard.
I do have a question.
Thank you. Congratulations. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, John.
So there's been a lot of changeover and everything, and we're kind of, we're electing board members midterm. Is it anticipated that in the annual meeting that, what duration do these, appointments from the board to a new position, how long do they run?
Yeah, I understand the terms run 2 years, but in terms of filling positions on
Yeah.
that, Jimmy might have more knowledge. Do you have knowledge on, is it just continue?
We are confused.
Okay.
It's my understanding.
That's what I'm saying, there's been a lot of
Yeah.
turnover.
A lot of turnover.
Normally, I would think that if you were appointed to an empty position that had been left by a former board member,
That's your
that you would
term.
run his
Yes,
The
term.
rest of his
That's right.
term.
But with the amount of turnover,
We don't have
That's
any
right.
idea,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do a lot of research to find out
yeah,
who. No,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
It is
that's
important.
gonna be an issue.
Yeah, just
I mean,
curious about what your
Yeah.
thoughts were.
Yeah,
It's
we
my
actually-
understanding that you get re-voted back on an annual meeting. And then
Yeah,
you
but
are,
if you run for a 2-year term, you don't, if you're
Yeah.
appointed for somebody's term that was supposed to run for
Yeah,
another
you
year and a
follow
half.
through every position,
Yeah,
you
you
feel
wouldn't-
that's what you
yeah.
do, whether he's got 1 year left or another term left.
All right,
Yes,
so
that's
you
true.
Okay.
guys are confused, that's the answer, that's fine.
That's what you needed to know.
It's pretty accurate. I just want to remind all the board members, please raise your hand before speaking. Thank you. Okay, next thing is we're going to move on to the treasurer's report. Tony volunteered to do this for free, believe it or not. Quick note, I want to let everybody know that I did give each board member an account and a password so they can access the bank account. It's privileges, but they've got that at their fingertips anytime they need to take a look at the financials. Just in order to be transparent.
So what I've got here is just kind of a brief overview of sort of where things are at right now, and I didn't have the benefit anymore of talking to the accountants or looking at the bank account. So I'm a little bit limited on information that I got from the accountants, and then some information that Kurt gave me earlier as well. So as you can see, what I like to do is, just like I say, give you an overview. So right now I'm checking, and this was as of the balance sheet as of January 31st. And Kurt was gonna get some updated balances today, but we forgot that it was a holiday, and so the banks were closed, so we weren't able to get it. So I think there's some people could have logged in and found it, but anyway. If any, the point being, and what Kurt said is all of the board members have access to the bank account, so any board member can look it up for you and let you know what the exact balance is. But anyway, so checking 48,368, savings 60,941, as of, like I say, the 31st. And I put up the prior month just so you can see, exactly what it was. And this actually was from the board meeting in December. But you can see that, the big thing that I always look for is big anomalies. If things are staying pretty consistent, yeah, you've got to look a little deeper, but if it's pretty consistent, you know that there's nothing, really crazy, either an error or some kind of a problem. But anyway, so you can see that right now there's $109,000 cash on hand. In December, we had $118,000 cash on hand. The big thing that you'll see here is that a couple of checks that cleared, and primarily this big one from Marina Point Condos. We hadn't, for you guys that didn't know, we hadn't paid the condos, and it's actually a company called Associate that actually is doing the work for the condos now. But we hadn't paid them for almost a year and a half. And how that slipped through the cracks, nobody's quite sure, but we went back, we audited to make sure that, we hadn't paid it. And in fact, we hadn't. So we had to pay catch up. So we paid them the $6,690. That was for the catch up. And then the next couple of months, we're paying, I think it's $500 to $600 a month to the condos. And that's for the use of the bathrooms, it's for the use of the pool, the swimming area, or the laundry room, and the facilities here. We pay $65 a night to use this room, for the board meeting as well. So anyway, these are the big checks though, that what I wanted to do was show everything over 500 that came out in the month of January, okay? And you'll see when I show you the P&L here in a second, the P&L will show that, this number here is 6,690. That was actually recorded in December. So it's kind of a funny way of doing it, but you'll see that the amount of expenses doesn't kind of correspond to this check that they were taken out in December, but the associate didn't put the check into the bank, didn't deposit the check until into January, so there was a little bit of a lapse there. But anyway, you can see the big checks that were written. The total of these checks were $17,000. Now that's not the only checks, okay? And so they do have, all the board members do also have copies of the bank statements, so anybody can go look at the printouts of the checks on there and everything. So if anybody wants to see any of that information, I know that Kurt will fire right off to you. Okay. And I did point out one little charge. There was a charge for $113.95. LegalZoom had been hired for a short period of time, but then we found out evidently that they couldn't support a nonprofit or an organization like ours. And so they quit charging us, I think, and then for some reason they charged us again. So Kurt's gonna take care of that, getting that reversed. Any questions on that?
I have a question on DreamMate services. What's that?
Coming up. Oh, it's for cleaning the bathrooms.
Is that 1 month's charge?
It's 1 month's charge, yeah. No, I'm sorry, that's 2 months' charges.
Yeah,
and once again, there's always a lapse. Sometimes you'll see no charges for Dreams-based services. But you see it on the P&L, and you can track it all back.
And just a quick note on that, just so you know, we're paying, was it Eric, half of what we were paying for the previous, Sharon, I think, was doing the bathrooms there for a while, so, the previous administration went out and looked for somebody to do the same job for, significantly less money, and she's doing a really good job for less money, so that's why we stayed with her so far.
Sounds good.
Hey Tony, if you just go back to that other slide for a second, all those checks that you put up there really don't add up to 17,331.
Don't they really?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was just wondering,
I was using my calculator.
I just did it in my head when it comes up about five below, so I was just wondering, is that,
28, or this is 2,800 and 2,800, yeah, you're a little less than that, yeah.
so that total of checks, I was just wondering, is that the total, maybe, but in error, is that the total checks that we wrote that month, or is that?
No, because I added up that, so that was my
That was
absolute.
a manual ad.
That was,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, my bad, no, I just trying to understand. Thanks.
That's a good question.
Kurt, I have a question
For Tony or for myself?
for Tony.
Yeah.
Tony, is that the only charge for Bay Area business? I know there's been months where they've charged more than once in the same month.
They have.
So I was curious, is that the only charge for this month?
That's the only charge in January, yes, that was the only charge in the month of January.
Okay.
It showed up on the bank statement, but, there could be, like you said, Eric, there could be, multiple charges in December. In fact, I think there were multiple charges in
Yeah.
December, if I remember correctly. And so sometimes it's more than that. But I would point out, though, that it does appear, though, that the dollar amount that we're paying Bay Area Business Services is coming down, which you would expect that now that they've had the ability to transition and get all the, things ironed out, if you will. And so they're not having to answer any questions, spending much time on the
Yeah.
phone and working on our account.
And then one other question, Dream Maids, originally we agreed to $450 a month and she included her own cleaning supplies. I was just curious how that amount came about to be $1,680 for 2 months?
Yeah, we'd have to go back and ask the accountants for the invoices.
Yeah, she asked for an increase, and I sent that out to you and everybody on the board, and I don't believe anybody responded, so everybody went back and retro with everybody, and there was nobody that was against, her getting a bump up for that.
I don't remember that vote.
Yeah, I've got the records.
And it's still, she's doing it for a lot less than the
A
previous one.
lot less, like I think it's half as much as what the previous.
I think the previous, what was her name? I think she was $650.
Sharon,
Yeah, I believe she was $650.
600 every 2 weeks, if I recall.
Oh, was it?
Every
yeah,
week.
yeah.
And that was with the, it was 500, and then because of COVID, several of the people in liverboards asked for it to be in, to get daily disinfecting. And so we bumped it $100 for that, so it went from 500 to 600 for that, which probably isn't needed.
Right, yeah, not anymore, so.
And what's the scope of, she just does these 2 bathrooms here, is that the, where she does it?
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay,
That is what she
it's
does.
just limited.
To the bathrooms, yeah.
Okay,
She doesn't do like the laundry.
okay, just trying to understand.
No, not cool, yeah, absolutely. Well, this is kind of a busy slide, absolutely, but I'll kind of give you the quick overviews. And once again, the big thing I look for is anomalies in any of the numbers. Total income for January, December, and November, going backwards, they're all in the, virtually the same range. In fact, these two are very close for both January and November. There was an increase in the revenue in December, and we talked about this at the last meeting, but it was the parking lot that was, and that's a credit to Jimmy because he's done a tremendous job of going back and finding a number of trailers that were never being charged. And so he's gone ahead and taken care of all of that and, brought some additional revenue into the marina that was being overlooked. So anyway, but in January, total income was $13,371. You can look through here and see all the expenses. I try to, get everything lined up as best I can, but they don't always come out well. But Eric, to your question, in December, the professional fees here are primarily the charges for the bookkeepers, especially since we don't have an attorney right now. There's actually a separate category when we have a law fee, legal fees that are there. And you can see that it is starting to come down substantially because we were paying about $4,000 a month when I took over in September, October timeframe. But in all fairness to them, they had just taken on the account. They were doing a phenomenal amount of work of getting everybody organized. They're having some issues. They didn't get all the information from the prior bookkeeping company, so they had to make a lot of changes there. So anyway, the big things that kind of stand out here, which I don't know a whole lot about, but they were just talking about it. You can see the last couple of months we spent a lot of money on plumbing, which you would expect. December was a freeze, so we spent a lot then. They spent a lot more money on both the fixing the docks as well as the electrical or the fireboxes and all of that. Dock repairs also, that stays pretty consistent across the board. And then, some total repairs was $6,500. Total expenses was 11,374. You know, it's in, you know, this number was very high, and it's what I was, one of the things I was pointing out, is that in all the charges for the condo were booked in the month of December. And they were, actually, the check was written in December, but it was never deposited into the bank until January, so it never showed up on the bank statement until January. It didn't affect the balance, as you saw on the prior slide. In December, it affected the balance in January when they deposited that big check. So anyway, you can see there can be lapses in here in some of these places. You can see anyway, the bottom line is that, you know, we stay pretty close on our net income, and you know, we had a negative net income in November. We also had a big negative net income in December. Once again, that goes back to, we booked those $6,600 of condo fees in the month of December. And so that's why all of those got, why that number came out so negative. And then now we're back to a positive net income in January.
I'm sorry, my eyes are not good
Yes,
enough to
it's
read all
really
those
is,
numbers.
yeah.
And I'm struggling, quite honestly, but my question is, what is our average, you know, rough and mean income per month?
You know, it just stays pretty steady around, you know, $15,000.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, I couldn't see that.
About $13,000.
So about 13,
Yeah.
okay. So that's what we're working with every month.
And this is the gross income here.
Yeah,
And
but
then
that's,
we take out our expenses off.
that's what we're working with to, okay. I'm thinking ahead to budgeting and expenses.
Are you the new treasurer?
No.
Gonna work on it.
That was,
Come on,
that
Mark.
was pretty tricky.
Gonna work.
Just kind of slid that in there, didn't he?
But I was, and I did ask for a budget discussion to put on the agenda, so I was just thinking ahead.
And this is available to anybody, if anybody wants it, I'll send it to Kurt as soon as I've done, and then he can send it out to anybody that wants to have a copy of it, so that's.
Do you have that compiled for how long? Because that's.
So I didn't do one in January, because they hadn't asked me to do it, but I do have it back to September, I think, that was the first one.
Yeah, I think that would probably be helpful for the
Yeah,
board to
yeah.
see, especially as we move forward and try to put together a budget.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have, just, you know, with the exception of last month again, I do have all of the, both financials from the bookkeepers as well as from the bank. You know,
I
so-
think if we could just see, you know, kind of get a historic perspective on what our, you know, our average income is per month, and that would really help us, and what our you know, normal expenditures are, and then we can look at, we can take out the
Yeah.
anomalies and then
Absolutely.
put together some.
Yeah, I'll
budget.
put together a little package.
Yeah, I think that I think the ultimate goal of all of us is to try to put together something that that allows for some expenditures to do the repairs that are needed, and also gives us some insight into some of our larger expenses that we can kind of chip away at, trying to figure out how to reduce those, you know, through different, you know, means.
Sounds really sound.
Yeah.
Very good. Cool. Okay.
Sounds good.
Anything else on this one? Almost done here, guys, so keep going, right? I just wanted to show we do now have a balance sheet, okay? Once again, I'll include it with everything. And you know, if you're not familiar with the balance sheet, I like to think of it as it's sort of a summary of the value of the organization, okay? So it's gonna take all of your assets, compare that to, you know, your liabilities, and come up with a number that has, you know, a meaning that is the approximate value of everything that you own and everything else. We didn't get this for quite a few months because we didn't have a retained earning numbers. And so they've obviously figured that out. I was surprised actually to see this balance sheet, so I didn't really get the chance to scrutinize it. But they did come up and got our retained earnings back at about 119. And I believe, because I had looked about a month and a half ago at the retained earnings from one of the times when we were still on the board, Dennis, and it seemed to me it was in the 109 range. So, you know, retained earnings are just, you know, it's really cash that's come in, it's value that's come into the company that is retained in the company. Okay, so not to be confused with necessarily the bank account and the balances of the bank account, but it's just value that's come into the company that's been retained by the company as opposed to, you know, going back out the door. So anyway, so you guys, you know, feel free to scrutinize that. It does give us you know, and always in any kind of balance sheet, your liabilities and owner's equity has to equal your assets. assets, and so if we come back here, here's the total assets are 128, and liabilities on the record is 120 as well.
I'm sorry, Tony, one quick question. I was waiting for you to look this way so I could raise my
Okay.
hand. So, because I was struggling on the P&L to make out all the very, very small numbers, I didn't see if you had an EBITDA, so I was wondering if we had any, financing that, we've got on the.
There's no financing that we have out right now. In our taxes, because we're a nonprofit, we're not really, I guess we're a nonprofit. I'm not really confident that we
The
are.
IRS, we're not officially a nonprofit per the IRS, it never were, but we operate like a nonprofit.
I would have, on the P&L, I would have looked for an evidence, any kind of significant difference between that and the net income, so, and that would indicate whether you had financing out, but since I couldn't see all that, I'm just asking.
And there is no financing to my knowledge.
Okay.
So there's been talk of it for different things like dredging and,
Yeah.
repairing docks and those kind of things. So, okay. And then last but not least, I just wanted to show you guys where we're at in the aging. So you can see that, where I really focus a lot on are these ladder columns over here. Our total amount, it has gone down since December by about $1,000, but you can see our 90 days is still at, over 5,000. 61 to 90 really hasn't changed a lot. 3160, still. And I don't know if you guys ever started that process with, there was a company that you guys were talking to, that we paid for, evidently Eric had said.
We've been trying to start that process. I was scheduled for some training in my real job.
Oh, okay.
Got no way that, I know Eric had volunteered. Did you ever get with Transworld?
I sent her an email, but never heard back from her. But we can still initiate that.
We paid for a company that will go out and send collection letters for us, and then, they'll, very nice letters in the beginning, and then when you get out to the, greater than 90 days, it's a little more harsh. And it's evidently, they're a pretty good company, and even prior to most of us being on the board, it was paid for. So we have like 200 pieces of it,
yeah.
That we can use, and they're all, like I say, it's all paid for and everything.
And they're gonna expire.
These guys are gonna start using that to actually, bring these receivables in and stuff.
Do we have a lot of people that are overdue?
Yeah, it's a fairly good sized list, and I send it to the board members so you can take a look at it. And some people are way out there, other people are, just maybe 60 days. But I'll send you that list. What I show the totals on here, but I don't want to show the people's names because
Right, exactly.
it's stuff that the board can see, but not other people.
So, that number to me, quite honestly, over 90 is shockingly high, because I would assume that, they're starting to get their slips in jeopardy, of,
Absolutely.
of foreclosure. So, do we have a policy for how long we let them go, at what amount before we start initiating some type of foreclosure action?
And I think that's part and parcel to this company that we're gonna start using, because that process is very well defined.
Yeah.
And so when you get to a certain point, then
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you can copy me on the same list, you're gonna send it to John, please.
Oh, I'll call you guys, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because we can move forward. We've got 200 slots. I'm not sure when they expire, but we need to confer with them and see when those 200 slots expire, because those are not indefinite.
Over 90, I would be, starting to initiate action and
Absolutely.
informing them.
Oh, yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
And so I think that we should just compile a list and send them a letter and say, hey,
Yeah.
you are in jeopardy of, this.
And we have the list, and in fact, the accountants can give you that list in a spreadsheet, so you
Yeah.
can do a mail merge, that kind of thing, with it.
Yeah.
Again, I'll do something like a dollar amount as well as the 90 days or so
Yeah.
for a foreclosure, because the slips aren't worth more than 8, 9 grand, so you don't want to foreclose on it and then not be able to sell it for, what they owe on it, if it's over $10,000-$12,000 in dues.
And I think though that, we should get with Eric, because he's got a handle on the company that, and all
Yeah.
those things, and I think that will,
Yeah.
it looks like it'll work very well
Yeah.
in addressing all of that.
It's a very legitimate company. One of the first questions I asked them was, because they're nationwide,
Right.
was that they comply with Protective 209. She did her research, her name's Pauline, and she said yes, that everything that they're doing falls within that, because, property owners have a lot of rights,
Right.
so they've got to be in compliance with that, and they are.
But it seems like, it seems like a, project that we should give to a board member and just let them run with establish guidelines that the board would vote on, like if it's over a certain amount and so. And John's shown some interest, I think maybe we should.
Oh, yeah, he's already,
Yeah, well, in ours too, we had 3 people that were way past due, and then we were gonna go foreclosure with one of them, and then she filed with the, I think it was with the state or the federal government with Social Security, and we couldn't foreclose on her unit at all. And she made like the bare minimum payment, like federal government, I guess, took her money and paid her bills for us to say, hey, look, we're not paying you the $240 her dues, we're gonna pay you like $60.
wow.
Did that go, was the delta, was that put on an account for arrearage and ultimately
Yeah,
collected, or it just was?
all that was
or you just
foregone.
lost it?
We got a letter from the IRS government that said, it's all foregone, we're gonna make this payment to you, and that's all you're getting.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm
Yeah,
amazed
so we had to adjust
they're
our
allowed
budget to
do
that, yeah, we had to adjust our budget to that.
We might be in the same situation with some of the owners. We'll have to find
Well,
out.
the thing is, if they don't live aboard them, if it's not their primary residence, then we can go get them however you want. Yeah, so it's her primary residence, and that's the issue.
So you know a lot about it.
Social Security.
Yeah.
and-
You should be the guy.
First duty.
Oh, man.
And with that, I don't have any commentary tonight like I usually do. I'm not a board member anymore, so.
Okay, well, thank you, Tony, for.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
And I'll get this all out to you guys too.
Yeah, just so you know, he, like I said, when we got on the board 3-4 months ago, or 5 months, he does this every month, and he's always, just like he did tonight. Do you have any questions about the budget?
No.
No questions until recently, and he's done a fantastic job, so.
Sounds good.
Thanks again, Tony.
You owe me another small Heineken or something.
I'll tell you what, it's on the way. Out of my own pocket, it's on the way.
Oh, yes, no, I would expect.
Hey, Kurt,
Yes, sir.
quick question. Do we publish that anywhere, that summary?
Tony sends it to us.
To us, but does he send it to,
I have the option, I guess.
to the members, and that might be something that the
Right.
members would like to see?
That's gonna bring us into another subject on this
Okay.
list tonight, towards the end. Number 5, updating our contact list.
You gotta go. Yeah, good stuff.
I'll unplug it for now.
There you go.
You're messing with your 12-pack right now.
Yeah, I went to a 6-pack. Tall boy only.
Everybody still, were you able to hear that, for those of you that are in the conference call?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I tried to get the phone close to Tony so you could hear his lousy voice, but
I gotta sneak out.
Hey, thanks a lot, Tony.
Thanks again, Tony.
Okay.
Thanks for joining the board, you guys. It's gonna be good to have you on.
Very much appreciated. Okay, so that concludes item 3 to move along. What's
We
that?
have to have a motion to accept.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we accept the financials as presented by Tony.
Second.
Third.
We have a
Third and
second.
fourth.
Okay.
Concur.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody on the phone call?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Let's start a trend.
Let's keep it going. All right, we're gonna move to item 4, unfinished business. Sub-item A, establish a budget for the coming year. And with that, John, I'll go ahead and let you,
Sure. So, I don't know how many of you know me that well, probably not too many, but I'm actually the CEO of my current company, and on about a half a dozen corporate boards. So I feel like I have a lot of, corporate governance and, specifically, budgeting experience. And when I saw that we didn't have a formal budget, I felt like we should have a discussion about a process to move towards that. And I think that this is probably the opening of that effort. We need a budget for a lot of different reasons, but in my mind, the two best reasons are that we need to have a consistent effort to make capital improvements to our property out here. I think that we should have on that budget or incorporated into that budget, we should have, you know, a schedule for repairs to finger piers, which seem to be in pretty bad shape. By schedule, I mean that we figure out in our budget how much we can afford to spend, whether it be $3,000-4,000, and then we agree that we'll expend that on 1, 2, 3 finger piers per month. Then we come up with a list of priorities for the finger piers, and we just chip away at that continually. I think we also have some capital improvements that we would like to make. The Wi-Fi comes to mind. I think I had a list of a few that I sent out. Anyway, we need to put together a budget. I have some examples that I plan to give to the board, but I think within the context of this discussion item for the agenda, we really should maybe brainstorm items that we agree will be considered for capital improvements out here. I mentioned the finger piers, the Wi-Fi. I think everybody here has 2 or 3 items that they have in mind that we could do out here to make the marina better. I guess I will volunteer. I hope not to volunteer for too much. I guess I will volunteer that if we compile a list of improvements that we want to make, and if I take the expenditures that Tony has compiled historically over the last 3, 4, 5 months, whatever he has, I will try to put those into a budget that I'll distribute to the board, so we can start this process. And since I don't think that we even have any historic budgets, do we, to go off of?
No, not that I've seen.
We got some records.
If we have some, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because again, the way that I normally develop a budget for an organization is the starting point is the last year's budget, you know? The nice thing about our marina is that we should have a very consistent and steady income. And John, being a business owner, can probably attest to the fact that one of the most difficult things about doing a for-profit budget is trying to estimate what your actual revenue is going to be, right? I mean, you don't know if there's going to be an unprecedented slowdown because of a storm, or if there's going to be
Increase in materials.
Exactly.
Right.
The materials, whatever it is, and so now you're trying to budget your overhead expenditures, and you've got a secretary, and you're like, well, am I going to be able to pay for that secretary for the whole year if if my so we should have a much better, more consistent ability to project almost everything that we do. And the other thing that the budget will do is to give us insight into our expenditures, and then we can start looking at those and figuring out how to chip away at those. You know, one of the things I personally think that we could do is a automated billing system.
Agreed.
Which we could, initially there'd be some upfront expenditures to load all the data into whatever system we choose. And then I think that we should ask and require that the payments come through some type of automated portal, where you input your credit card, or you input a checking account, whatever it might be, and it automatically gets billed to that.
Sounds great.
I think that there might be some strong holdouts. There might be guys that feel like, hey, I should be able to send in a check or whatever. But I think that we should move to a system where that is all automated. And then I know Jimmy's done work on some smart meters, and eventually, I don't think this is anything, we should lay out a timeline. Eventually, those smart meters should populate an automated billing system, and we reduce dramatically kind of the accounting effort. And I've done this before with other businesses where you go to an automated billing system, and what happens is that then you just retain a accountant, whoever the accounting firm, just to do the errors and omissions. In other words, somebody gets a bill for $2,800 for their electricity, and they're like, this isn't right, and something went wrong, and this guy dives into it, fixes it, and gets them the correct billing. So with that said, I would, and I'd asked Kurt if I could lead this discussion, because normally this is Kurt's meeting, but if I could lead it for just this budget portion of the discussion. So with that, maybe we could go through some proposals for capital expenditures to be added to our budget, so that maybe by next meeting, which assume is roughly a month, I could have gathered up this data and put it in some type of presentation like Tony just gave us to propose a budget. As I said, I don't envision this process taking less than probably 2 months, because we have a group here that we want to garner support and agreement from. So with that, I'd open the floor to anybody that feels like there's something on that list that should be for capital improvement. And it looks like John has a...
Well, I just from what we saw from just the financials right there, it looks like 13.5, 13.8, 13.9, somewhere around there. He said 13 is where we're at.
Yeah.
We can start, that is our fixed budget. Anything we have above that, we could put for emergency expenditures, or we can bleed that into savings.
Yep.
And we can start from that point on. Like you said, I do like automating things. Also, a lot of the things we have, I don't know if we have yearly set contracts. I know in my business, we define our contracts right before, where I buy all my equipment beforehand. So I see all these 6% raises, it doesn't affect me. So my business isn't affected by that. When I give a bid to a customer that calls back 3 months later, that price is still good. I'm not saying, hey, I can't do that now for that price, I gotta put 6% on it. So maybe we could do some of our contracts that way. Every year they just come up for renewal, so we have a set amount of money that's not gonna change midweek. They're not gonna call, hey, I need a little bit more money bonus for this cleaning, or I need this, it's changed. Hey, we signed a year contract, that's
Yep.
That will help it, the different numbers coming in at different times, or people wanting to raise a raise or something, they know that they're not gonna get it because we have to go through a year contract.
Sounds great.
I agree with that, and but so that's one way to manage and control our expenditures, and the other is that I anticipate after we put together this budget that we can kind of look at our, we are basically building a hit list of our biggest expenditures that we can go back now and start, whatever the situation requires, start making some kind of plans to reduce that.
Absolutely.
You sit back and you look and you say, wait a minute, we're spending $40,000 a year on accounting. That's a big bogey.
Right.
Let's go at that and figure out what's going on.
Let's spend $15,000 up front, and let's get it all automated.
Yeah.
In the next 2 years, it pays for itself.
Exactly. I think that the automated is a great idea. Like I said, I did move a business that I was involved with and still involved with in that direction, and we do roughly 4,000 transactions a month, and we spend about $700 a month on accounting.
Yep, that's
I
awesome.
mean, they're small, $30 to $100 transactions. It's web based, but all the accounting does is errors and omissions. So somebody gets billed.
I love that everybody has a credit card on file, it's automatically billed, and takes it out.
Exactly.
It just makes it simple for people that aren't paying on time, and it makes it easier for us to get constant payments.
Yeah.
I was involved with a different business, and we were moving all of our vendors to automatic payments, and we were moving all of our, as much as we could, our customers. And you will get some diehard old school holdouts that just, one guy didn't want to give us access to, he was a big vendor of ours, didn't want to give us access to his bank account so that we could automatically, and I talked to him and he's like, you know, that's how they steal money from you and all this stuff.
Yeah, we had that same
Yeah.
problem here.
Yeah.
When we went to Automated also, for the billing for the HOA dues, there were some people that, no, I'll just send a check in when I'm ready. I don't want to take it out of my account or
Yeah.
this and that.
Yeah.
And if we told them, you don't do it out of your account, do it out of your credit card.
Yep.
You do it out of a credit card, and you got 30 days to fight it, and the credit card will put a stop on it right away.
Yeah.
But so I
60 days.
anticipate the same thing. We're gonna have some holdouts here, and that's why I think that it should be ultimately, when we come to the point where we're ready to do it, it should be a board action that we just vote and we decide, hey, we are gonna require it,
Yep.
and these holdouts are gonna have to figure out how to conform, you know?
If they can't conform, they pay a 4% penalty fee or something.
Yeah.
So
I
with that
mean,
being said, I wanna bring Dave Martin into the
Sure.
conversation, because he also has a perspective on it. Dave, you wanna jump into this conversation?
I think that, you know, this, that we need to have a budget, we need to have a budget for this year. And, you know, I agree with everything that both Johns have said. You know, I've run businesses before, and I work for somebody today, but we can't run the brain without a budget. I think that between all of us, we can work together and come up with and it's not even a hard task to do. Right. I mean, you just look at the past what you spend and you develop a budget over it. And like John earlier said, you know, the fixed income makes it really, really easy to develop the budget based on what we spend in the past.
Eric, did you have something real quick?
Yeah, I was gonna say I have firsthand knowledge on how to program so we can tie in our merchant account and accept payments, whether it's checks or credit cards or debit cards. That's something I can assist on us creating on a very small cost. Setting up a database with GoDaddy, under $100, so we can do all that for really cheap if we decide to go that route.
So I think that, you know, the discussion about automated billing is really kind of ancillary to the main topic, which is developing the budget. And then we will develop a timeline that would incorporate, you know, smart meters and automated billing and everything else. And I know there's a lot of enthusiasm, but I'm also a realist, and I think that those timelines are probably longer than we're all really thinking right now. You know, I'm thinking, you know, smart meters are probably in the next year. You know, I'm thinking that automated billing sometime maybe in the next 6 months. You know, but I can and I will develop a proposed budget by next month. I hope that we have substantial comments to that. And then hopefully we get something approved by the meeting after that, you know. But again, I would open the floor, the main question being, within that, you know, anticipated proposed budget, what does everybody see as things that we need to do out here for?
We're gonna hold that question up, because
Okay.
that's gonna
All right.
extend this
Well,
meeting.
that's, okay, that is gonna be ultimately necessary to
Sure.
develop the budget, so if you wanna hold off on it, that's fine.
Yeah, because there's a lot of priorities around here. Just real quick, two things. Number one, well, we spend a lot of money for these condos, expenses for the amount of people that use those facilities, so I think that's something we could look at for cutting back on the cost. One other thing is the savings account sitting there, and we've been using Energy Bank for a while. But I know it's been brought up in the past, that money's sitting there not collecting any kind of interest.
That's the same problem we had with our money. I kept fighting. We had our money with Associa. Associa has it in 2 different California banks, so we weren't collecting any interest on it for the past 6 years that I went through all the financials. We had over $350,000 in there, and we collected no interest, nothing.
So I'm thinking that's something we should look at.
Absolutely.
That's
And
another
today, you can get interest rates. Before, it was less than 1%, unless you did something pretty extraordinary. So
Right.
now you can get 4% pretty easily.
Yeah, well, I'm one of the other, go ahead. Dave, was that you?
No.
Okay, the bookkeeping, for whatever reason, we changed bookkeepers. I've heard good and bad about the previous bookkeeper and the current. The current definitely had a challenge, because they didn't have the records from the previous. Now, as all of us know, when it comes to billing, when I bought my slip, it took, I think, 3 months to even figure out how to pay for my slip. That's how bad it was. But with that being said, we also don't wanna jump into a new bookkeeper too quickly. Now that we've got all the records kinda straightened up, I did get a backup, of their QuickBooks. I found out through a friend of mine who's also a bookkeeper, what version. I've been trying to research different bookkeeping entities, but in the end, no matter who we pick, we're obviously gonna be, we could possibly be held hostage by that individual or that entity. Now, I know, Dave had tried to hire Associa, heard a lot of bad things about them,
Yeah, I
but,
know them.
you know, I don't know how the group feels, but, you know, is a management company something we could possibly look at doing? I don't know if that would benefit us, or if we continue to try and separate it out and get individuals, or we try to save money, but in the long run, we kind of bite ourselves, because then we've got a web person who's holding us hostage, or you've got a bookkeeper holding us hostage. So there's different ways of looking at it. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so that's one of the things when I was on the board up there, I was trying to get away from Associa, and not only because of their slow response to certain things, but they're overcharging us all the time. So they have a monthly fee they charge us, and then they charge us for all these little repairs. And instead of like doing sheetrock in one unit, and then doing like some painting in that same unit, it's 2 different invoices. So they get to charge us extra $25 for that invoice, extra $25 for
Wow.
this invoice. So I found Bill Etheridge. They're out of Texas City, but they manage 3 or 4 other condos that my buddies live in here in this local area, and they said they do a tremendous job, fair price. So I got them to walk our property, evaluate everything else. They actually came in at slightly lower price than Associa, but there was no extra charges. And they were on point. This should have been taken care of. That was taken care of. This should have been done. And they have a person on site that does all that. So the board members don't have to have all those headaches, planning to do this, planning to do that. They take care of all that for what, $1,000 a month, I think it was? Yeah, and they're on point and they're fast. They have good crew that work for them, and so they charge a lot less versus we buy a contractor just straight out, doesn't know us, doesn't have a rapport with us, we haven't spent $50,000, $60,000 with them in the past 4 years. You know, that's where they get the bigger discounts and stuff.
See, and I like
So
the
Bill
two
Etheridge is
ideas.
really good.
Yeah, see, this is great what you're discussing here, and the thing I like about this is, you know, the last few boards, there's always accusations, people out there accusing or making, like I said.
Right.
That would probably eliminate a lot of it right there. Instead of us individual people trying to take on to save money or volunteer. Okay, now there's no more questions.
Yep.
That helps the automated system, the same thing, you're eliminating human error.
Yep.
And again, you're eliminating any kind of accusations or funny business. That's why I like those 2 ideas.
And they come into our meetings and they give us the breakdown of everything they spent, where they spent it at, who did it, who's responsible for the work, what they have coming up for the next agendas, when it's gonna be done, like a projected date within like a 2 or 3 day period of time. And they're very thorough. So that's what I was trying to get switched up there, but they were just slow to want to do it and change the rail station so long.
Yeah, go ahead, John. I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to throw in, I mean, in case, I didn't hear, some of this was broken up, but, you know, a management company can allow to do automated payments as well, so I think
Yep.
we need to, that before we do an automatic payment system on our own. I mean, if we wanna go that route, that's part of the management company thing. Associate was gonna do that with us, you know, and there's another management company I was talking to that takes care of that little marina across from South Shore. At one point, they were too busy at the time, but they do that as well. So it's just, I think a lot of this runs together rather than try and do all these tasks separately. We need to make a decision at the higher level first. If we want a management company, then get them involved and maybe do an automated payment.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what Bill Etheridge does too, and then anything above like a certain amount that we decide we want, that they call for confirmation from the board.
Yeah.
Nice.
I had looked into one myself, and she said, "Oh well, we do that, but we just don't feel like we're ready to take on a marina
Yeah,
right now." But you've got somebody. I'm sorry, this gentleman's been waiting for quite a while.
Etheridge does the townhomes, so they're already on site.
Okay, so good.
yeah, Bill Etheridge, yeah, they do that all the
He
time.
does all the townhomes.
Yeah.
Good reference. Dennis, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, and they've been doing it for about 3 years now, and they do a great job. And I have the highest respect for Bill. I talked to him about managing the marina, and he doesn't know anything about boats, and he was reluctant. Now, to me, it's real estate.
Right.
You know,
It
you
is.
don't have to be a boat
It's property.
expert. And sometimes you don't know if you don't know about something, you think it's more complex than you know. So if you can get him to do it, I think it'd be a great coup.
Okay, well, that sounds good. I'm gonna move the meeting along.
Yeah, it's already 8:30, Kurt.
So, let's take a look here. Security cameras. Eric, I know for the last 3 months we've been discussing, have you put together any budget for that or any quotes?
Yes, and I said, Kurt, all you need to do is call me and let's get these ordered. It's already board approved. If we need somebody else to join the team, like one of the Johns or something like that, but it's ready to go. But I did email you, say, hey, call me regardless. I have everything we need to proceed forward with.
Okay, so
And that's gonna be, again, the extenders and the cameras.
you have the electricity on this budget? Do you have anything to present as far as like a spreadsheet and,
No, because I said repeatedly, remember, just email me or call me. And we
Okay.
can go and finalize a project that was already board approved.
okay, yeah, we need a budget with electricity, the price of the cameras, the brand.
Yeah, the electricity is
Are
gonna be
we
nominal.
are you gonna be installing these?
Sure, I can, or I can get, if someone else wants to volunteer. It could be a couple of us to do it.
Okay,
It's,
and
it's
then-
easy, it's not hard.
So for consistency, we're gonna have waivers and notarized and all that, and
Yeah.
three quotes, with the.
Well, I mean, I'm not getting paid, so we don't really need a quote for install.
Okay,
We could do something also like Ring doorbells. I mean, they're high def cameras. I don't know.
Yeah.
What kind of cameras you guys discussed before?
The way I see it, we need to have 24/7 recording that way, because there's always gonna be, even if you do detecting of motion detecting or person detecting, there's gonna be a lot going off. So that's why we want 24/7 recording. So in case something does happen, we can go back and review the footage. And then another benefit is that people will catch wind. There'll be less activities going on once they know these are real cameras, not bogus cameras that have an LED light built into them. These actually function. And at some point, if we decide to, we can code it on the website also. I can program it to where either select few or the entire marina can view the cameras.
Yeah, the Ring is the same way. Yeah, you pay like.
But Ring doesn't do 24/7 recording though.
Oh, they don't.
No.
Only when motion.
Yeah, yeah.
go ahead, John.
Yeah, so I'm a huge proponent of cameras, very strong advocate. Haven't been out here for 15 years. Jimmy's been out here for a while too. There's been some things that could have been easily resolved if we had.
Sure.
And I also feel like, you know, we all have valuable assets just sitting out here without, not to in this day and age, not to have cameras to see what's going on is a little, you know, really we should. So,
Well, John, what about you and I partnering on this project and go forward with it?
But what I do want to say is that I've also been involved with lots of businesses. I can tell you about a lot of different events, but I'll tell you about one specifically. We had a guy crash through some gates. We watched him on camera. We watched him go back, load his truck up with about $10,000 worth of equipment. We watched him move in and out. We knew exactly what happened. We knew what kind of truck he was driving. We knew when he did it. We knew generally what he looked like. We watched him drive out, and we couldn't do a thing about it because our cameras were not good enough to read the license plate. They weren't good enough to specifically identify him. So it is critical that if you have them, you have to have high definition. You know, immediately right after that, I paid like $20,000 to have all upgraded cameras put into the facility. But that guy got away scot-free, and we had him on camera. You know,
Well, we had a person on the marina too. A husband and wife got in a fight, and they were drunk or whatever. And the wife jumped out the balcony. She said her husband pushed her. We had it on camera.
If you
When we
had-
got
Holy
out,
shit.
She went over the side like
Okay.
that. And up. We're like, well, we got you on camera, girl.
Yeah.
So my point to my comments, I'll try to wrap up quickly.
That's fine.
Is just that that I feel like we need them, but I feel like we've got to make sure that they have good night vision, because that's when everything's going to be happening, and that they have good enough definition that if some guy drives in, a week ago we just had somebody steal some catalytic converters. If we had cameras, we'd have that whatever he drove in with the license plate, and word will get out, and those events will go down because people know that you can't fool around out here. You know, that's my biggest comment, is that one, I think that, and if possible, we should have some type of webpage that people can just log in and see the cameras. You know, I mean, I've got that for several businesses. You know, we just log in, you can see what's going on a alarm goes off or something, you log in and you're talking to the police while they're out there, you know, and you can see what's going on. You can review and see if it was a dog that did something or if somebody was in the backyard, you know, with something. So those are my comments on cameras.
Just so everybody knows, I did get a quote from a contractor here this weekend.
Okay.
And for 5 cameras, and that's not including the parking lots because the condos have their own and they're looking at upgrading also.
Okay.
So we were looking, it was pricey, 15,000.
Yeah. Honestly, even at that number, I would be a proponent.
Okay,
but,
good.
You know.
And that was just the first quote. We can
Yeah.
probably get a couple more quotes here. Officer, do you have any comments since you're?
Sure. He's absolutely correct. If the camera view ain't worth a crap, there ain't nothing we can do with it.
Yeah.
You know, you got a grainy photo of a red truck leaving with a bunch of crap that he drove off in.
Yeah.
If it don't have a license plate, and sometimes even a license plate, it may tell us the truck, but it don't tell us who was driving it. You know, and that's when it comes for us. But, you know, the cameras, think about where you need them, what you're trying to see on them, and don't go cheap.
All right, if I can interject on that, Kurt, I've been waiting. Anyway, Kurt, I've been waiting.
Quite a while.
I understand, but I'm going in a certain. Go
Where are
ahead.
you going to install, what areas will the cameras go in? Because I'm at the far end in the middle of.
Right. So my thought on that was, I spoke to this contractor. I wanted, at the time, I thought we could get away with 3, but basically I wanted one to capture 18A and B and as much of 16 and 17 as possible. And he said with the cameras he had, he could probably do that. Obviously one here for 12 and 13. Definitely a PTZ camera for the liveaboard side, and then one camera was going to be here kind of at the gate going in and out the liveaboard side.
All right.
Trailer parking.
That was something else. The other parking lot, I don't know exactly where this catalytic converter theft took place. You're talking another camera now. However, that may be something the condos would be able to cover if they upgrade their system. So if there's a way, they're covering stuff and then we're covering stuff, and if we can mutually maybe share the cost for the common area like the parking lot, that's a possibility. But it's all a discussion, and I think it depends on the type of cameras and stuff. I'm gonna let Eric wrap up this conversation real quick. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, anyway, 4K cameras, a 24/7 recording, are incredibly cheap. They're high definition, more than enough to catch wrinkles on somebody's forehead or to recognize anybody. I've got one on my boat right now that does 24/7 recording. It's incredibly cheap, simple to install, and we sure as hell don't need to spend 15 grand on cameras. We can definitely install 4K cameras well under $100 at every utility shed going forward. It's cheap, and we can do also the same situation over on the liveaboard side because they are high dev and they do recognition of people and motion detection. So. But the biggest aspect I would say, the night vision is off the charts amazing nowadays. Full color night vision nowadays. So there's definitely no reason to spend over $1,500 for the extenders and the cameras at every single utility shed on this side, and then we need to install some outlets on this side to do the same. So it's cheap, very cheap, and well worth it.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to item C.
Well, I'll say, does anybody have any questions on the cameras?
Somebody want to chime in here on the phone?
Yeah, this is Nasher. Yeah, you know what? I definitely support, having the cameras over here and for their intended purposes. And for one, first of all, we need to have an outside, professional contractor that has no marine affiliation to put up these cameras. Next, we have to decide where we're going to place them strategically, like the officer said, to serve this purpose. And also, I want to include that if we do go with this, that as far as accessing video, we have to come up with a unanimous majority to review an incident that was brought to our attention. Because in the wrong hands, people are going to use that ability just to snoop on other people and just use it for the wrong reasons. So I want some parameters in place as far as the access and what exactly we're looking for. We're not just going to be on there just to see what everybody else is doing over here.
Yeah, those are valid points there.
That's very good. Maybe the president and vice president are the only ones that see that first before it gets released to anybody else.
Some discussion there. Yeah, it'd have to be something, I think, that
Absolutely.
it would have, and it would be enough, it'd have to be enough criteria, I think, before you just jump on the camera and start looking. And it's probably not a good idea to have any of our own people. It should be a contractor. Go ahead, John.
See, I would kind of dissent from that opinion, because I think that, certainly legally, probably the officer could support me on that. Anything that happens within public view where there's not an expectation of privacy is, fair game for for being observed by anybody and anybody. So I would dissent from that opinion. Obviously, at a certain point, we'll come to the point where we decide to vote on how we're going to proceed. But I'm just making my case that I think that if it's open and there's no expectation of privacy, meaning, we're not spying into somebody's bathroom or bedroom where they're trying to, they expect privacy. But if they're walking along a dock, if they're standing out within public view, I think it's fair game to observe what they're doing. That's just my personal opinion.
Good
Legally
point.
true, legally
Good
true.
point.
I
All
think,
right.
Kurt, I think he had a point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, just throw that in, especially being on a marina with liveaboards, that is their house, so you're definitely gonna run into some privacy issues. Okay, so the placement of the cameras, you need to think about where y'all put those.
Again, though, it would be when they have an expectation of privacy.
Sure.
I mean, if you're looking through, if somebody's got a door that the camera is capable of seeing through the window and seeing him walking around in his, skivvies, and well, now that's not allowed. That's he has an expectation of privacy. But if he's sitting out on the back of his boat in his chair, he does not have an expectation of privacy, and he should, and it's fair game to observe it.
Kind of like sitting on his front lawn in a regular house.
Sure.
If you're sitting on the front lawn of your house, you don't expect privacy. That is the criteria.
Somebody throwing a beer can and shooting people
But
Yeah.
the ring's gonna get you.
But
Yeah.
if your neighbor happens to have a camera that's pointed at your house, and he's looking through the window of your bedroom, now
Sure.
that man in that bedroom has an expectation of privacy, and you are now violating his privacy.
It sounds to
Absolutely,
me like
absolutely.
we need to
Yeah.
table this discussion
Yes.
for further research.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want
There's
to
a
make
lot
that
to-
point.
no, that's a
that
good
I
point.
dissented
Yeah,
with that
I-
opinion.
Okay.
Great point.
We're gonna move on to item C. Discuss the use of mobile management, use it or lose it. Now, this was something that the previous administration paid for up front, so we've been kind of looking at this, trying to get use out of it since it was already paid for. And I think the goal here from the previous administration was to do the automated thing with the metering and all the other stuff. So I think that was the intention. Is MOLO the correct application? Maybe not. There's others. I know that John, that you're aware of some other things.
Yeah, we use a cloud-based software that integrates and is very low cost to do automated billing, and whoever may be taking on that responsibility of heading up that task, I would be happy to put some input into that process. I've already volunteered for the budgeting, so I'm not going to volunteer for that.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
Me neither. I'd rather build Etheridge.
Yeah.
Look at somebody like that come in and take over all that automated build.
I mean, there are
We voted
many
it down
different-
anyway.
There are
The
many.
board did.
There are many different ways of doing this, and
Yeah.
like I said, this was something that was paid for. Jimmy's done a lot of hard work to input data.
Yeah.
The good thing, I think we can export that data, so his hard work did not go to waste.
Okay.
Is that the one for the future? Probably not, but the fact that he did that work and it won't be lost, I think is a valuable tool. So going forward, that will not be wasted. Maybe like you said, this HOA management company could import it into their system. Lot more discussion there. Renew it, I would probably say no, probably not worth renewing the contract on that, but
So are we voting on whether we're renewing that or not?
well,
I think we could table that.
Not tonight.
We need to find out when it comes up.
it's one of those things, I think 3 months now, we've either run out of time to discuss it or
Okay,
table it.
Well, what
I
I
think
will
we
say,
should,
Kurt, waiting.
hold on, I think, one more month maybe to
Okay.
look at it. Now that we've got enough people here to do the research, I think we can do that, so go ahead, Jimmy.
we do have
Okay,
plenty of
thanks
time
for
to- I think
overruling me on that, Kurt.
I'm the chairman. I'm choosing Jimmy right now. Thank you.
I do know we implemented that in October. So somewhere, you know, we got that much time to look at other options and still, I mean,
We have time.
before we have, yeah, we got plenty of time. It's not like something we gotta agree with or think about or whatever today.
It is paid for, so I mean, we
It
do
is
have
paid
time.
for.
One thing I will say though, we have to be real careful. If we're using any system or sitting on any kind of mass emails, we've got to get board approval for that. I know that these emails that were sent out caused a little bit of concern. People got emails from Molo and nobody knew what it was. Yeah, that's something that we've got to be very careful of going forward. We're going to be discussing that here in item A, 5A. So it leads into that. So do we all agree then we're going to table that?
Kurt, I've been waiting.
Okay, we'll do the Roberts rules, 3 minutes go.
Okay, so I get the Roberts rules. No one else does. Anyway, the board
Hold on.
board did vote
Eric,
it
hold on
down
a
not to
second.
use Molo.
Eric,
That was
Eric.
something that did occur.
Eric, what are
Kurt,
you
it's
talking?
my time to speak.
I want you to clarify the Roberts rules. What are you talking about?
Kurt, you've given no one else a 3 minute time frame. And it doesn't matter. Regardless, let me finish my statement. We did vote it down not to go forward with Molo. It's almost $6,000 a year, and it's a pointless software. It's just refurbished property management software. So the board did vote it down not to utilize it.
Actually, I presented the evidence on that. We didn't vote it down. We simply tabled it.
Okay.
I
Well,
sent that email, if you read that.
Yeah. Well, who did the minutes on that? I recorded.
They
them.
were official approved minutes, Eric.
did
Anybody else
record
on the
them.
board want to discuss this? Jimmy's discussed it, Eric's discussed it. Anybody else want to chime in? Go ahead.
It's not gonna be 3 minutes, it's gonna be 30 seconds. But I just think that, again, we should be making kind of longer term plans when we talk about this. We should be talking about how we're incorporating smart meters and automated billing and all of that into a longer plan. I just don't want to see us going down a path that has a dead end to it where Jimmy spends a whole bunch of time entering data in and then we decide, no, that's not the system that we want or it's not compatible with whatever. I think so. You know, I'd just like to see, you know, to me, a 1 year timeline, you know, with how we're implementing, what we're implementing, how it's all gonna integrate together. Those are my only comments.
Well stated.
Okay.
Agree.
Dave?
No, I expressed my thoughts to you. We just need to make a decision to use it or just not use it until that decision is made. Like you said, no mass emails because it confuses people.
Okay, Nazar?
When we first came out with the Molo, we had a up-to-date vision for the future going, on the technological side. And it made all the sense in the world at that time. And, because only one person, mostly Jimmy, has been proactive about it, I think we're losing sight of the original big picture plan that we had. And I think the stuff that was said at the original meeting, everybody agreed it makes sense to everybody. That, hey, you know what, we're still living in the 1970s over here. So I think that would, cause less confusion on the billing, take less stress off the, read meters and stuff like that. So that way, if there's more transparency, it's all there. So I think we need to move forward with the Molo. That's just my vote, my opinion, and that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Okay, item D, discuss the ANR summary. I think we've pretty much covered item D, but I'm gonna go around just one last time and let everybody touch on that. And Jonathan, I think you're interested. It's basically we're discussing Transworld, the delinquent accounts that we were discussing earlier.
Yeah, I would definitely like to look into something like that. I don't mind taking that on as my sole project, figuring out how to get with Eric.
Okay, sounds
and
good.
Figure out that company you guys are using, how we can implement that software right away. And then we'll make a presentation to the board, say, hey, this is what we found, this is the way we're gonna implement it. These 3 steps, after that, they're gonna get a notification for foreclosure. Either whether it's 90 days or a day, whatever they decide on their program. and then, or a dollar amount. And then
Perfect.
we're gonna proceed to foreclose, and then once we proceed to foreclose, that's it, that's done, it's gonna go up for auction.
Sounds good.
Okay. You have any comments on that, Eric?
No, I agree 100% with John. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'd be willing to work with him on that project.
John?
No, just to reiterate that I do plan on putting together a budget. I just asked you for Tony's contact info so I can get that
Okay.
information.
No comment.
Nazar, any input on that?
Yeah, I think we need to start pursuing, not pursuing, but utilizing Transworld for its intended purposes, because, like I said, every day that we have it, we pay for it, and we're losing money on the other end of it. So I say use it.
Okay. Dave Martin?
I didn't know that we were paying for it on a regular basis. I thought they just took a portion of what they collected. So I'm behind on that.
Yeah, I can, I'll forward you the emails with the information on that. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I got a little bit of information on that. We paid for them to send out collection letters. They don't do the actual collection if it comes to foreclosure. They have somebody else that does that, and then they get a percentage of it. But right now, we've got a box that we paid for 200 of these deals, and they can start at 30 days, 60 days, and then 90 days. But they send out a nice, comfortable letter to everybody, but they don't do the collection portion of it.
Okay. We're gonna move on to number 5.
Kurt.
Item, you want a second round on this?
No, it's just if it goes into collections, that's when the firm, they take half of it. So that's what we need to be aware of. If it does go into collection process, they take half of the proceeds.
So you know that for sure.
That's what she told me.
Okay,
I mean, I didn't see it on paper, but she told me that.
okay.
Okay, we'll let you guys do your research on that and then get back with us.
So y'all gonna be on the committee for collections?
Yes.
I think
You're gonna be on the committee for budget?
Budget, yes, I'm budget. I'm
Okay.
You're gonna be on the
committee. I'd like
You're
to.
gonna be the committee for budget? You guys
Yes.
will be on the
Collection,
committee for
and
collection?
on your budget, once you find out the delinquents and who they are, if you can put us a report of who they are and how far they're back.
We got that.
On the budget? Yeah, then
Yeah.
we'll start moving
We
forward.
do need to get with the bookkeepers and update that because it changes.
Yeah, it changes.
And we don't wanna be sending out stuff to people that's,
Yeah.
we don't wanna get there.
Do
You
you
want to
have?
send anything out to somebody that doesn't deserve to get it.
Do you have a previous budget for the condos that you could forward to
I
me?
turned it all in already. If
Okay.
you would have told me 2 months ago, I would have had everything for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so electronic. You don't have an electronic version of it?
Not anymore.
Okay. Okay.
They did my passcode and everything else. But
Okay.
then again, that's something that if we went with Bill Etheridge, they would do all of that for us. So that's just one more task that's not our thing, until it comes to a point of collection, and then it goes to an attorney or whatever. Well, you guys do it, we send it over to an attorney after Associa has tried 3 collections on it.
I think that
Okay.
the boilerplate portion of the budget is pretty straightforward. I think the biggest points of contention are going to be what we put in there. You know, I mean, putting together the skeleton of the budget is pretty easy, but then there's going to be the contentious part where everybody's going to want to decide what gets put in there. You know?
Yeah, definitely further discussion on that.
All right, makes sense.
All right, number 5A is the last one for the, yeah, that's it for the night. So a follow-up on updating the contact list for all the slip owners. Per Texas Code 209, members are to supply email addresses. I brought that up at the beginning of the meeting. We have been inputting a lot of this into Molo. I did pay a secretary to kind of work on weeding that through, so started a email contact list. I've gone through personally to verify probably 20% of that. So it is in progress and it is part of the code. So that is getting done. Jimmy, thank you for all the work you did on that, because I know you've done quite a bit. It's not an easy task and it is a requirement. I don't know how it was done before, but it's getting done, which is the good news. 3 minutes to the board if anybody just has any comments or questions.
I'm good.
Okay.
It'd be good if we had maybe some kind of page, like we had, Associa set up Times Square or Square, and you can go on there and you can find different, people in my building to say we had a water leak in 304. I'd be able to go on there real quick, after I let associate know, they were just slow, but I'd be able to contact that person, would have their name and their phone number, I'd be able to contact them right away. Hey, we need to get in your unit, you have a spare key, you have somebody that has access to it, somebody in this area?
Yeah.
Because we're shutting down the water the whole building until we can get to your unit.
Good point.
Sounds
If we have
good.
something like that, that would be easy, and we can constantly update that. It's very-
Yeah.
What I actually did is I took the information that Jimmy put into Molo, I kind of exported it and I created just an Excel spreadsheet, simply had dock slip number, name, email address, and phone number. I made it as simple as I could make it.
Perfect.
So if you're in a hurry, you don't have to dig through, it's just, there it is.
Because, one of the people on the dock 12, they called me and said that big boat next to me, I don't know who owns it, but it kept slamming in it, it broke all its lines, it was slamming into me, so I went and took my own lines on it.
Yeah.
And, but that'd be good if somebody knew who that was, they'd be able to call them sooner.
Well, that was one of the aspects of the MOLO. If you can call me or you can call Kurt or anybody, we can go in there and tell you just exactly who, the phone number and everything. Else before, you had to call the bookkeeper and nobody knew. The guy over here, his generator came on
Right.
and, his motor run for 3 days.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
nobody know, okay, well, who's that? I don't know who that is. You know?
Exactly.
And I finally, okay, well, look, call him up and 30 minutes later, he came out there and turned the generator off.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's just,
We need that more communication of this marina and easier access, because we can all help each other out so much quicker if we had that.
Actually, that brought up a whole nother thing that's for another time.
Okay.
People coming in and out of their slips and not reporting when owners of slips, not reporting when they've either sold their slips or someone has come into their slip. That's a whole nother subject in itself. But at least this is a starting point, is to get that contact list. So, I'd like to, you have a real quick?
No, please go.
Okay.
I think
We got
mine
one
is-
last thing here. Officer Aber's gotta fill us in.
Okay.
Well, actually, I did have a point before.
Too late.
It just goes.
Too late. Too late.
Just real quick, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I know that it seems like the board now is probably in at a point where we're stabilizing a little bit better than we had in the past. I do know that our state filings are completely, out of order because of the speed that everything has been happening. I would volunteer, since I've done that, many times, I know the process for filling out the paperwork, to, inform them of the current state of the board. I think that we need to do that, and get it handled, and I guess I'm asking and or making a motion that I be allowed to do that, under Kurt's, guidance, because he's the president, so.
So the only question I have, I know it's fairly easy to do. We went
Yeah.
through that process, and even David Pace, the attorney, was surprised.
Yeah.
He was thinking it was gonna take a lot longer.
Yeah.
That was part of the fees. But right now, so I'm president,
Yeah.
Jimmy's secretary.
Yep.
I'm asking Tony to fill in on the treasurer reports until we find a treasurer. So we've got, now that John's on the board,
Yeah.
we've got, there's 7 of us now, I believe, so we need to fill officers' positions. And
Yeah, we do.
so before we file this report with the state, I think we need to kind of discuss that maybe pretty quickly here for the next meeting. It's one of my priorities, is to get some officers in place. So
Sounds good.
if it's okay with you, I'd like
So
to.
then we'll hold off on that. That's fine.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
all right.
That's why I just brought it up as a point of discussion. Doesn't mean that we have to do everything I asked.
time to
Yeah.
move in that direction.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely have a
Okay.
lot of things to go through, and prioritizing those it's probably the main thing we've got to look at, but.
I'm just worried about continuity. I'm worried about
Sure.
having everything reported correctly.
Well, I'm worried too.
Yeah.
I think we all are, but we're making progress, and thank you for the number of people that showed up tonight. It's nice when people actually care, and just showing up, it's a lot for people. So appreciate you showing up, and thank you to you two gentlemen for stepping up and joining the board. That is probably one of the most difficult things for many reasons, obviously, but very much appreciated by me, I can tell you. So with that being said, we're going to end this meeting after Officer Aber go ahead and gives us a summary of what he's got to say.
I'll hopefully be quick. I'm gonna stand up though, my legs are tired, walk over here. Around last September, October, Jerry Aho cornered me one day, I live in the ward, cornered me one day and says, hey, you got something going on over there? what do you think? I'm like, well, I says, I need some documentation. First of all, I guess I should start with this. My name is Brian Hebert. I work for the Texas Department of Public Safety. I'm a criminal investigator. So with that being said, Jared contacted me and I said, okay, let me talk to the president, the board, you know, so that took a little while. Started working with Kurt. The allegations were that former board member president Garrett Erickson, and there were some allegations against another one too, but that Garrett Erickson stole anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 from the World Marine Association. That's a lot of money. Yeah, a lot of money. Discussing with the board members and everything, I was given access to bank statements, permission to talk with Bay Area bookkeeping. And I spoke and worked with the bank a little bit. Long story short, through my investigation, there was a lieutenant with the League City Police Department doing this as well. I took a little bit more personal concern because it is the war, even though it's separate. Long story short, through all of that, through working with the board, primarily Eric, Jimmy, and Kurt, I was able to determine that there were bills and invoices for all of the expenses, except for there was one that I couldn't find documentation for $750. When I talked to Garrett on the phone, he explained to me what it was. There was a couple smaller ones, like $80 or something like that. You know, basically I determined man didn't steal nothing. I did talk to Garrett about 2 weeks ago on the phone, and I told him that. Because when I entered into it, I'm like, holy crap, these people are telling me you did all this, man. I get to put your ass in prison.
Right.
Well, guess what? I ended up apologizing to the guy. But because, you know, I just apologized to him more so for y'all than me. But I went down the line, but no. I looked at the check. I'm not a money guy, but I looked at the bank statements, and I was able to find a bill for some of the ones. There was a $4,400 check, there was an $8,200 check, a $600 or $6,300 check. And you go back and look, the work was done. There were some questions about some of the companies that were used to do the work. Nothing illegal about it. You know, the board was doing some things, and I spent the first hour over here with some of the board members trying to give them a little bit of guidance on, number one, how the board should operate, because several of us have been on boards and are currently on boards, how it should operate and things like that. And I think hopefully with that little bit of assistance in clearing this up, letting them know that there's a way that this can be prevented. If you spend a dime, there's going to be a receipt for it.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So, one question is how far back did you go? I mean, sounds like, I appreciate your effort.
I just
I'm
went
trying to understand.
from the beginning of the president. I went to the first check that the man wrote.
So you went back for that specific.
While he was the president. That was the only accusation here. And it was, I don't remember the dates, but whenever he wrote the first check, I started looking. Of course, me not knowing what the finances look like, I'm like, why in the hell is this lady getting a $600 check every month? Yeah. You know, why is there?
Must have been Sharon.
There was this check too, and there's some reimbursements to
Yeah, yeah.
slip owners and things like that, and I'm like, well, they didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And actually sitting down with Jimmy one day after I found, I hit gold. The area had the receipts for a lot of this stuff, which nobody knew that they existed. And I was like, oh yeah, we have. So between the transition from the old bookkeeping company and all that stuff, like I said, I'm not here to get into y'all's business. But I just wanted to let everybody know that I did the investigation and Mr. Erickson did not steal a dime from this association.
Sounds
Well, that's a big relief.
Yeah.
That's a good
Good.
You know, at least not these big numbers, because whenever they came at me with $20,000 to $30,000, and I sat down with Jerry and Kurt and I sat down, this is probably 5 months ago, sat down and I started going through everything. I said, I'm gonna need more information. And
Absolutely.
it took this long, and I got the information about 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And, amazing. So if anybody accused him or told him whatever, you know, might owe him a lot.
I'm glad I always refer to it as those rumors.
The rumors were.
No, I never said what they were, I just said the rumors.
Okay.
But yeah, the man didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Is what we rephrase that. And I'm not saying that he did do anything wrong in any way, but he did not violate the laws
for which he was accused of.
Now, was this simply an issue of bad bookkeeping or something like that, where people, when they were starting to accuse that they didn't have, you know, I would think that the bookkeeping or the monthly statements would have been sufficient to prove that he was innocent?
With the transition of everything and what was going on, I think some of the documents may have not gotten lost, but nobody knew who the heck had them. And through talking with the hour before this meeting, kind of helped in some of those ways. It's like, hey, you know, be above board on everything. You spend a dime, have a receipt for it. Doesn't matter what you spend it on, as long as, you know, the rules were followed, just have documentation for everything.
Probably, just to chime in real quick on this, when I first got on the board and Eric got on the board, what prompted some of the suspicion was the fact that we kept asking for the financials. And there was an excuse going forward, and I think that's what started it. Tony and I had discussions with Garrett and said, you know, the biggest problem you've got here is not communicating, not being transparent.
Absolutely.
And so it immediately caused suspicion.
Absolutely.
And so that was part of it. We kept asking for a long time, and it just seemed like it, you know, you just could never get to that point. Then there was all kinds of people chiming in what they heard, and, you know, so everybody was concerned.
Absolutely.
And it was legitimate.
Well, it was also when we transitioned, when our bookkeepers dropped his cold, and we started a new bookkeeping firm.
Well, I can say that having been out here for 15 years, there's always been rumors about what's going on out here, you know, and I think that we should kind of start a new era where we're extremely transparent.
Absolutely.
We get the management
I
company.
think it started at about 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah, if we get a good management company like Go Etheridge or somebody similar to that, they take care of all that. It's
I
up
love
front.
that.
Every month they come in here, they give us the whole details, the whole spreadsheet, everything.
I wanna make a
Suits
real quick motion here to adjourn the meeting officially.
Officially.
So can I
Just
have a
like
second?
one
Second.
second before you do that motion, the only point I wanna make about the transparency is that I feel like it should extend to the members also. Because the members are out there all talking and wondering what's going on and everything. Not just with the board. It's great that we have access to the accounts now, but we should be publishing a report that tells them exactly what we've done for the month and what we spend money on. That's what I'm.
And that's the same complaint when I was here, they wanted that same
The
transparency.
members are just entitled, as much entitled to, you know, as long
If not
as,
more.
if not more.
And we tell them to come to the
What's going
board,
on.
we tell them to
Yeah.
come to the board, that way, you know, we get a handful of people.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna tell you everything you show the board.
And that's exactly what this meeting's for.
Exactly. But no one showed up.
So,
I second your motion.
Second.
Hey, appreciate it, Tucker, Brian. Awesome.
Dave seconded it also.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Aye.
With that being said, we're adjourning the